Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. The UN's World Meteorological Organization declared 2023 as the hottest summer ever recorded. Joining me to discuss, we have Taipale, the Chief Technology Officer of Sentera. We're going to address how agricultural technology is using ingenious ways to combat extreme weather challenges. Eric, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
It's great to be here.
You got it. Tell us about the summer of 2023. How did that impact U.S. agriculture?
Well, it is quite remarkable that in terms of total production at the national level, it's going to be so similar in terms of yields in corn and soybeans versus last year, because that really belies so much variability that is due to weather. Soybean yields are about flat year over year. Corn yields are actually going to be up about 10% in the aggregate. And farm incomes will be within 5% of a record 2022 with somewhat higher expenses just due to cost of living inflation. So not a big change in the aggregate, but it has become almost a cliche to talk about climate and weather variability, but 2023 was really an exceptional year. We all know it was a hot and dry summer overall. We've had severe or moderate drought really extending across the heart of the agricultural production zone for corn and soybean in the US, extending from Nebraska to Ohio. So while we had this generally hot and dry weather, we had extreme variability, especially in rainfall, where in some areas we see record outcomes, and 20 miles down the road, we might see a disaster, 20 or 30% loss in yields. So extreme variability around precipitation in particular really tells a very different story, almost county to county, or even smaller distances apart than that.
How is this impacting food production?
So because total yield isn't significantly different, the supply chain will react. The supply chain has had to get very creative, of course, over the last several years. So logistics, all of the mechanisms to move food from place to place really are quite adaptive and have become much more adaptive over the last 10 years. So we will see some price increases because there is so much variability in terms of where production is exceptional or where production or maybe challenged. So it becomes more a challenge of moving from where the crops are being produced into the downstream and the midstream processing. So we may see some moderate impact to food prices over the next 6 to 12 months.
And Eric, how is artificial intelligence and ag tech helping?
So that is it's such an exciting area for us. We think of agriculture as a manufacturing industry, really, except it's an industry where we're manufacturing and the factory doesn't have a roof. And nobody would want to do that, but growers don't really have a choice. So if you can imagine, hundreds of millions of production acres where the kind of convergence of the ability to bring Internet of Things technology in to just gather hundreds of millions of data points almost continuously, flow those into AI and machine learning technologies that really give growers and the food downstream stakeholders an opportunity to understand better and better exactly how their production acres are performing, gives them the opportunity to step in more quickly and more precisely with more advanced management practices to mitigate against what might be happening in terms of climate and weather directly, or the indirect effects of climate and weather, like disease and pest impacts, and really give growers and the whole space the opportunity to use AI and digital tools to manage these crops at a level that has never really before been possible.
And finally, what's next for the industry and Sentera?
So we're super excited. We just announced a couple of weeks ago an advanced weed management product. So imagine, if you will, drones flying overhead and very precisely identifying weeds, where they are in the field, what kind of weeds in terms of species we're seeing, and then AI developing exactly the right prescription, that cocktail of crop protection products that is the most sustainable, that is the most effective against those weeds, and then pushing that in an instant to the cab of a tractor that can go through and individually treat those weeds as it moves across the field. It's really exciting for us because the possibility is to reduce potentially the amount of chemistry that gets applied to the field by 70% or 90%, improve sustainability. When we think about factors like the environmental loading of chemistry into the soils, we think about sustainability, and we think about improved grower economic outcomes. Just really amazing to think about the ability to manage so many billions of plants, so many corn and soybean plants all over the world, and almost manage them down to an individual plant level to generate the optimum outcome for the grower economically, but also the optimum outcome for the planet from an environmental perspective.
All right, Eric, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.